The only way this war ends is if Ukraine turns to Russia and says, help. And Russia will say, here's the deal, unconditional surrender. You don't get to say anything. Shut up. You are now the Japanese on the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, September 2nd, 1945. You got your butts handed to you, and we are blessing you with a chance to have an end to this conflict instead of killing all of you, as we should do. I'm a little bloodthirsty right now, but the Russians will say, these are the terms, unconditional surrender. You will accept what we tell you. And I believe the terms would actually be very, very benevolent. I believe the Russians aren't in the business of seeking additional territories. I know that's going to anger a lot of Russians who may watch this program, who will say, Odessa is Russia, will always be Russia, and Putin will never abandon Odessa. Odessa doesn't belong to Putin. Putin's never claimed Odessa. They'll say Kharkov is Russian, never abandoned it. Kharkov doesn't belong to Russia. Putin's never claimed it. Putin doesn't want it. We already know that. How do we know that? Because in the original peace agreement, Kharkov was a Ukrainian city. Odessa was a Ukrainian city. Kherson was a Ukrainian city. Russia wasn't going for these cities. They weren't trying to seize territory. They took these territories when Ukraine decided to prolong the war, to expand the war, and Russia realized that the ethnic Russian populations of these territories were at risk. And therefore, Putin, going back to his 2005 speech, where he said the greatest catastrophe of the last century was the collapse of the Soviet Union. Everyone sees he's trying to get the Soviet Union back, but they never listened to the rest of it, because overnight tens of millions of Russians became homeless. And I, as the president of Russia, have a responsibility to the Russian nation. And the Russian nation isn't defined by borders, but defined by common ethnicity, common religion, common culture, common history. And so the ethnic Russians of Ukraine are part of the Russian nation. Putin has an obligation to help them. Go back to what I said earlier about his number one priority is to do what's right for the Russian people, for the Russian state, and protecting the Russians of Kherson, Zaporizhia, Lugansk, and Donetsk from a Ukrainian government that has been affiliated with the Banderist ideology, which is premised on the necessity of killing non-pure Ukrainians to make a pure Ukrainian state. Not theory, reality. It's what they did for a living from 1943 to 1954. And so Putin said, no, we're securing that. Now, if you want Putin to reconsider the future of Odessa, the future of Kharkov, the future of Dnipropetrovsk, the future of all of Ukraine to the east of the Dnieper River, continue the war. And Putin will take them, and once he has them, he will not give them back. That's my belief, not my knowledge, because I don't work for Putin. I'm not in the inner circle hearing what he has to say. That's just my assessment of Russia, that they are trying to get these territories, but if you compel them to expend Russian life and resources to defeat you because you refuse to do the right thing and terminate a war that can't be won, once they get Odessa, they're not going to allow that Russian population to be turned back over to Ukrainian government. So this is why reality bites. The only outcome to this conflict is an unconditional surrender on the part of Ukraine. The only choice Ukraine has is when they will choose unconditional surrender and what they want Ukraine to look like at that time. The sooner they choose unconditional surrender, the bigger and more viable Ukraine will be. The longer they drag this out and make Russia expend life, resources, etc., the smaller Ukraine will be. And the ultimate calamity for Ukraine is that there will be no Ukraine.